Wholeness, beautiful beings. Welcome to Notes of Nara. My name is Naja Rashida, and today's topic we are going to discuss trauma and discernment. This month of August, we're talking about the heart space. So, specifically, we have here my handy dandy notebook. How to alchemize trauma to develop the skill of discernment or intuition. This is very important, and I think a lot of us that have gone through specific traumatic events, which is a very wide spectrum when it comes to the human experience. One thing that could be a whoopsie, a little tiny mishap, can be incredibly traumatic to someone else, right? And one really big traumatic event could be a little whoopsie to someone else. So it is perspective, and it is, the gravity and severity of the situation that dictates how it affects our adult life, our adulthood. And, I will say those that have gone through very unique and specific traumatic events in life, usually they take place in our childhood, where we have very little to no power over, what we have no power in our environment or in or how the adults around us interact with us. We are just there. We are the sponge. We take a lot of the brunt. We really do. Children really do. And they're the ones that are often overlooked because why? They are innocent and they are a child, but a lot of the time what's overlooked is buried and ignored and neglected, and then you find yourself, you're 25, 30 years old, and all that you've been running away from or you've been, neglecting and pushing down into your psyche is bubbling up. It's bubbling up in your choice of career. It's bubbling up in your finances. It's bubbling up in your love life. It's bubbling up in your community. It's bubbling up everywhere in what you do and what you're trying to manifest and create in your life. So my focus is, it's all about alchemy, really. It's all about alchemizing your life, taking accountability and responsibility of how you interact with life around you. No matter what you've gone through, use what you've grown through to develop your skills, your natural gifts as a spiritualist, your natural gifts as a creator, your natural gifts as an active participant in life itself. So, how to alchemize trauma? Well, identify what your trauma is. And by all means, like for example, perfect example with keeping in the guidelines of YouTube, a propriety, I guess. You're in college, you're going to university, you're young, and you're finally away from your family. You're away from all that's troubled you and ailed you and held you back. You miss some things for sure. That's your childhood, that's your neighborhood, your community, your support system. And you go off into university, and I use the university as a perfect example because that's when you have it's circumstantial, the people that you meet, but you're all in the same age group. From 18 to 22, you're all literally in that early adulthood phase, that early adulthood season where everything's brand new to you and to your friends, to your peers. And they all throw you together. I'm going to make this a little personal. So they called us first year students because they didn't like freshmen because they used a derogatory term, fresh meat, right? Fresh meat, meaning you're fresh on the menu. Take that how you want it, but that's just uni talk, I guess. But anyway, they threw the college I went to threw what they called a graffiti party. The graffiti parties, basically, they had older upperclassmen, so sophomore, junior, seniors, hand out white plain tees and then Sharpies, markers, all colors to everyone, okay, to the first year students, freshmen, and then upperclassmen. And during this graffiti party, they were exchanging names, numbers. And at that time, social media was brand new. Cell phones were just starting to pick up and take off. Most kids still have or used landlines in our dorms. I think got a payphone that I just kind of didn't use all that much, but it was a flip phone. Like it was early 2000s, okay? But during this party, it was a graffiti party, and it was really cool. Obviously dry campus, no alcohol, but I'm gonna tie this into it. And we would exchange names, and we would exchange phone numbers and email, and we're all just exchanging. And I met, actually to this day, my really good friend. I'd almost say best friend. We don't see each other like that often, but we stay connected now, and we've known each other since we were 18 years old. 18 years old. And for 18 years, off and on, beautiful thing. But we met at this graffiti party. And so you sign your name, and then the upperclassmen sign their name, and they put down their number, what they're majoring in, and then you get home, you take it off, and you look at it, and you write down the information, whatever, just to keep contact. That's an initial meeting, right? You don't know all the stories that everybody's bringing in. You don't know all of their experiences. You don't know all the trauma. You don't know all the projections. You don't know all the programming, because it's just the first meeting of meeting someone, right? And you're excited too, because it's like, finally you feel like you found your crew. And that's the first awesome thing about getting, breaking away from the old and entering into a new space. When you find your tribe, it's locked in for a while, right? For a few years. And so then you get comfortable with your crew. You find your crew, your solid group of people you hang out with, you talk with, you eat with, you cry with, you have debates with. It was awesome experience. And you start partying, start experimenting. Now here's the kicker with alcohol. So alcohol comes into the picture. In a setting such as this, when I was in college, I would witness how alcohol would affect certain people differently. Some kids would, it was a way to blow off steam and have fun, get a little wild, get a little crazy, because exams are around the corner, or they just took their exams and they're not going to see their friends for a couple of weeks or a month, whatever. So you have all this really big party towards the end of each semester, right? And in some of these parties, then you'd see kids and I say kids because that's where we were, we're adults, but brand new. And with these kids, I would see them, some of them, it was more of to suppress their issues. Others, it was more of a way to cope with recent issues. And that's when I really realized, and here's the thing for me, because of my early childhood exposure to certain things, very, very heavy experiences growing up, I was like, fun. I was trying to make everything fun. But then it's like, when you have early exposure, traumatic exposure to certain things, like, you already know where it can go, like where it's gonna, like, how dark it can get. And I was only 18 years old, and I knew because I was exposed to that world way earlier than most of the kids at the school. A lot of the kids at the school. However, what I saw was that, and noticed with my early traumatic experiences and exposure to certain things, I could pinpoint where alcohol would be an issue for them. Truly. I knew which ones would be caught up in legal issues, which ones would probably be the one to either harm someone or harm themselves, or both. And turned out that I was right, unfortunately. one of my really, I mean, we developed a kinship, a closer one. I think it was his last year in college, and I think I had one more year. I think it was my last year too, and he passed away due to an incident that involved alcohol. And there were signs, there were signs. So things like that type of trauma and it's usually always tied to childhood, because like the earlier you're exposed to it, when you see it again as an adult, you just know, like your intuition picks up on it right away. There is no wiggle room of, I wonder if, am I just dreaming this? This has to be a coincidence of some kind. No. It's not a coincidence. Because children are so open. They're so open. It's organic and natural to be that open. And when you're in certain situations and circumstances that expose you to things prematurely, where you don't necessarily have the capacity to fully comprehend what you're seeing and what you're experiencing, what you're hearing, and like your nervous system, it just kind of goes into something overrides, and so that I feel like it would be an advantage for most people who have in some way experienced childhood trauma. As an adult, you can tune into where a person's suffering very quickly. It doesn't take rocket science. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a certified therapist or a psychiatrist. I've worked in mental health and psych health, that's for sure. Very, very closely. I've dedicated a few years of my life to the medical field and working in that arena, and so I'm very familiar with it. But when you're able to channel or alchemize your traumatic exposure into tangible gifts of discernment, you then become very, very good at where to place your compassion. Your compassion isn't misplaced because your intuition's on fleek. Your intuition's on. It's very, very potent. So those of you that have struggled, like, well, this and this and this have happened to me, and you work through your victimhood mentality, and now you're at this space of, okay, so what do I do? And I became just fixated on serving everybody, being a master servant, serving the public, serve. Very, very, very careful. You have to be very careful with that trap. You really, really do. I don't regret doing what I've done in the past 12 years of my life. I don't at all, but it's like when your heart has its natural passion and calling, it's best to follow through with that. But there's something I needed to work through when it came to public service through healthcare and education. That I'm not, going to knock that at all. But yeah, alchemizing what has happened to you that can then help other people. Alchemizing your victimhood mentality, Easier said than done, but I think that's one of the reasons why, empaths usually, they're incredibly highly intuitive, but they're also equally traumatized people. You know what I'm saying? They're just built different. It doesn't make them any better or worse than anyone else. You can be equally as intuitive and have had the best upbringing and not exposed to certain things and all that, but it's different. It's different when you are when you've had to see things and experience certain things and see loved ones go through certain things. And then you're like, what do I do with it now? What do I do with this? What do I do with this? And the best thing to do with it is to let it go. Alchemize that shit. Let it go. Don't hang on. Don't get hung up. Don't hang up. Don't, I think the whole attachment to, I need to be of service, I need to be a servant of all, and serve the public and have purpose, and just help everyone who's in need. And it's like, that's not what Source was asking me to do. Not in the way that I thought, because I was like, this stuff is so heavy from my background. What do I do with it? Where do I place it? And I feel like Source was asking me, give it back. Let it go. Give it to me. Why are you hanging on to this? You went through a spiritual awakening so that to release this ish. Release it. Don't feel like you have to put so much effort into it. Yes, you can alchemize your experience if it's in your heart to do so, but don't burden and bog down and carry the cross. Yeah, I said it. You don't have to do that. You really, really don't. You don't have to be a martyr. Oh, look at how much I've suffered. Look how trauma I had to go through. And what are you going to do with it? If anything, I hope that you develop your discernment so you know how to call out stuff right away. Save your time, save their time, save everybody's time. Because a lot of the time, what I've noticed is that I would bypass their shadow over, because I just saw so much light in them that they couldn't see. You can't do that. You can't bypass someone's shadow. You got to pay attention to that shit, or it's not great. It's not a great experience. Don't ever do that. You got to look at all of it. Look at the whole person. You can do the whole love and light stuff, but there's shadow there. Just like at night, when the sun goes down, it's dark, right? The owls come out. The wolves howl. You hear rustling in the trees. Yeah, that's the psyche. That's the hidden. That's the unseen coming out to play. And you have to be able to know when to dip out of the game. You know what I'm saying? Not all games should be played. Not all games should be played. Discernment is like a filter. You remember in science class when they have us make the natural, I forgot the scientific name, but you had sand, and then you had the pebbles, and then all of that, and then you see how much or how clear the water will come out. I forgot that process. Help me out below if you've gotten this far in the video. But it's like that. You have to know and discern the weight of the experience and what you're willing to give and what you're willing to release and let go. Otherwise, you will get caught up. I have gotten caught up, not just in personal romantic relationships, but also professionally. In more ways than one. And then you start looking at yourself like, what? How did I get? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And we all had that moment in our life, what am I doing here? What's going on? What is my why? Why am I doing this to myself? You just snap back into reality. Activate discernment. Look at your life experiences. And the crap that you've been through is not all of it is for nothing. Nothing is for waste in the world of energy and metaphysics, in the universe, in consciousness. Nothing is wasted. You don't waste your time. Time can't be wasted, really. You're using your time, but you're not wisely. You can't waste time. You're just misusing it. I think that is all I wanted to share about this. Your discernment is your intuition. That is my opinion. That's what I choose to believe. And those of you who you worked through and processed some really heavy shit in your life, use that. That's how you use that as an energetic, metaphysical compass. Don't get stuck in it. This happened to me. This happened to me. This happened to me. Like you're just repeating the story over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it keeps manifesting over and over and over and over again. Write a whole new damn story. Just throw the whole book out. Just donate the book and write a whole new book. You know, writers, when they're in their writing mode and then they just write and they tear the page and then there's paper everywhere. It's always dramatized, right? They overdo it in the movies. They're just like, oh, this is crap. I'm gonna start over. Do that. Use what you have. Your trauma, and I know this is gonna probably trigger some people, but your trauma is actually a gift, a spiritual gift. I'm even gonna say, for sexual trauma, there's a practice called red tantra. Red tantra is not about sexuality and just sex magic and all that other stuff. That's a segment, not the whole thing. Red tantra is just becoming whole. Many true practitioners of red tantra are lifelong celibate practitioners. They use their life force energy in a very different way. Sex magic is a completely different sect. I don't know how far I can get on this channel with that topic, so in time we can talk about it, but I'll probably have to be in a separate membership thingy. I don't know, but red tantra is a way where many men and women who have been traumatized in that way, they go and they heal. They become they learn to alchemize that experience and turn it into a medicine. Then you can help other people. You can identify right away. You're not confused. You're not caught up because of your own baggage that you're still holding on. A lot of us go through our trauma so that we learn how to process and alchemize it within ourselves, so that we meet someone who's gone through what we've gone through or worse. We have the tool to help and direct and guide if they ask for it. They must ask. You cannot force or project anything onto anyone without asking permission. That is one of the many universal laws that, unfortunately, a lot of spiritual in my neck of the woods, I bumped into individuals who would abuse that. They wouldn't ask for permission. They would just do it, right? And that comes with a price. But if people approach you and say, well, how do I process this? Then yeah, I feel like the trauma is a direct initiation. It's a spiritual initiation into something, whether you're facing homelessness, drug addiction, SA, sexual abuse, physical trauma, like car accidents or dis-ease or something like that, and you meet someone that's gone through that one thing, it's almost like they must invite you. You must be invited to help them. You cannot, whatever they're going through, and you see a lot of suffering, you cannot force it onto them. They must invite you to do that. And that's where I will leave it. It is your choice. to alchemize your own trauma. Truly. And it starts just by asking yourself. You know, I noticed also in the spiritual community, there's so many classes and courses that people charge hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars, right? Oh, here's a course that will teach you how to heal your trauma. Here's a course to teach you how to activate your third eye. Here's another a crash course. I'm going to charge you $500 for this. Listen, it all starts with you sitting in silence, listening to yourself, and asking. Just ask. Speak it from your heart, from your whole being. How do I alchemize this hurt, this wound, this trauma, this feeling, this emotion in a proper way, in a balanced way, in an integrated way where I'm not causing harm onto someone else? You never want to do that, no matter how upset someone else makes you feel. You want to be clear. So thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your Freedom Friday and the day of Venus, the goddess of Venus, love, passion, fire, and among many other things. And may you enjoy your Saturday, the day of Saturn, the father time, if you will, patience and slowness and strength and power. All right, thank you so much. Goodbye.